Welcome back to Everlasting Summer, part 47, I think. We just woke up and Masha couldn't remember anything, and we had to remind her that everyone died. Well, didn't die, they vanished into thin air, as Lisa was telling us. Masha glanced out of the window and said nothing. Seems like she remembered now. Well, getting something to eat is indeed a fine idea. Nobody was going to object. It's not like I was in the mood to eat, same as everyone else, but ultimately everyone knew that we had to keep ourselves running. Soon enough, we were sitting in the canteen, quietly digging into whatever we could find. Want me to cook something? Inquired Masha quietly. Let's wait for lunch. For now, it's fine. She gave me a disappointed look. Okay, so what are we gonna do? We have to get out of here. But the police. We have to get out of here, I repeated stubbornly. But how? Bus. It's highly unlikely that one will come. It doesn't run too often. At least there should be a timetable somewhere around here. I tried to remember if I've seen the bus map or its timetable somewhere. Probably not. Then we'll go on foot. Anything's better than staying here. But it's a long way to... Well, we might hitch a lift. Here in the middle of nowhere? I doubt that. Oh, stop with that drama. Although thinking about it, it's exactly the right time for drama. I'm not being dramatic, but that's it. End of story. What are we going to say when we reach the city? Well, tell them the truth. We came to shoot a movie, and then... What movie? Okay, stop fooling around, will you? I buried my face in my hands, feeling run down. Even it was kind of funny yesterday, although it really wasn't. You can stop now. I don't get you. Oh, you're still gonna keep on pretending that you came here, not to shoot a movie, but to roleplay as a pioneer? I don't understand a thing. Lisa swept her surprised gaze across everyone. But we're pioneers. What pioneers, for God's sake? Masha, who had kept silent so far, butted in. It's the 21st century out there. Yeah, right, pioneers. 21st? It looks like we are indeed in a deep mess. So you're all gonna say that you are, well, we are, normal pioneers who just came here on vacation for a week or so. A heavy silence followed. Well, yes. I cast a look at Masha. Looks like she doesn't know how to react either. She looked pretty pissed off at me. I sighed to her, pointing at the door. Excuse us for a second. Having gone outside, I asked, what do you think? Well, she adopted the pose of an ancient Greek thinker. Looks like they genuinely believe that, and some folks, named Semyon and Miku, were in their shoes until yesterday. Some. Well, I guess you're more familiar with them than I. Oh, come on. I interrupted her. Couldn't you come up with a more feasible theory? Still have absolutely no theories at all. I no longer know what to think. Me neither. But anyway, all hell is breaking loose here, even without taking pioneers into account. Murders, dozens of people disappearing without a trace. That ought to be our top priority right now. Our top priority right now. I looked closely at Masha. I wonder how she can keep such a cool head under these circumstances. Sure, I'm also trying to keep calm, but that means... what? Let's leave this issue for later. But at least a wild guess. Guess it's somehow connected to the disappearances. It's safe to assume that one, or even two or three, humans couldn't deal with so many people at once. Agreed. Might be that this I can't speak, Jesus Christ. That this phenomenon somehow affected them. Might be. Anyway, it's easier to believe in that than, for example, that we were in a parallel reality or something. You know, by now I'm willing to believe in anything. Then let's stick to this theory for now. Okay. Let's go? You go ahead. I'll be back in a minute. It's dangerous to be all alone. Seriously, what's so dangerous? Broad daylight and everyone's around here. Okay. She gave me a faint smile and headed back to the canteen. But still, her behavior is also quite odd. Looks like the last few days changed everything and everyone. It's only been 2 days. It's been 1 day and a few hours that you've been here. Including Masha. Yesterday, shock, fear, and trembling. Today, cold and sensible reasoning. Damn, she's even more self-assured than me. Could it just be a good sleep? Nah, there's something wrong with her too. God, dick. Sure, she doesn't think that she's a pioneer like everyone else does, but still. If something has happened to them, then maybe it's also happened to me. No, it can't be. Everything seems to be fine. I've double-checked my body and found no abnormalities. Okay, I have to keep calm and control myself. I got up and was about to return to the canteen when suddenly I heard a tiny voice from behind my back, as if somebody was calling for me. I got down from the porch and took a few steps towards the voice. Somebody was peering at me from behind a tree. That's fucking creepy. It was Ilyana. No, not Ilyana, but something that looked like her. I froze in my tracks. Half of her face was torn and hanging down in shreds, her grinning jaw trembling nervously as if in laughter. A bloodshot eye, hanging half out of its socket, suddenly swiveled its pupil to look at me. I stopped breathing. Felt like I was gonna die right now due to the shock. Oh, it's in red. Semyon. The thing that appeared to be Ilyana was calling for me. My legs began to give out. I had tried hard not to collapse, tried to scream, tried to run away. But my consciousness had already left a body that now was just a ragdoll, moving by the will of an invisible puppet master. One more second and... Hey! I instinctively turned towards the word, caught sight of Masha standing at the porch, and then instantly looked back to Ilyana. But she was gone. Masha seemed to notice the deathly pallor upon my face and jumped over to me in the blink of an eye. What happened? I just saw Ilyana, there. Putting my finger towards the tree. Sure, the sight of the butchered Slavia was indeed gruesome, but at least she was dead, not walking around in broad daylight with her face torn apart, and she wasn't calling me by my name, even if the name wasn't my own. The last ounces of my strength deserted me and I collapsed to my knees. What? Where? Masha was shaking me by the shoulders. It wasn't her. That was... I don't know. Get a hold of yourself. Oh shit. Bitch slapped me. I felt a round arm slap his... A round arm slap. Hit me in the face. Oh, I see what they mean by round arm. Like, I mean, do you have fucking square arms there? Just like going all the way around and hit like really hard in the face and gave Masha a questioning look. My cheek burned, but I slowly started to regain my composure. Ilyana was there, with her face. Basically, it was a zombie. Yeah, zombie Ilyana. That's the most rational explanation I can give. Masha looked at me dumbfounded. Anything can happen here. If you'd seen her yourself... Thank God I didn't. Come on, I'll get you some water. This has turned into a horror movie. I described my encounter with that creature in detail to everyone. And tell you one thing, science can't explain whatever's going on here at the moment. Science? It's outrageous devilry happening here. The hand of Satan. I wish we had a church nearby to light a candle. What? You can just light a candle on your own. You don't need a fucking church to do it. Then I said nothing, resorting to quiet sobbing. I'd almost completely recovered and now was able to think straight. Now it's perfectly clear that we've got to get out of here. Well, I'm not a real scientist, let alone a paranormalist, but if I recall correctly, all these demons and spirits are bound to a certain place. Therefore, if we get away from this place... Now that's an excellent solution. Masha grinned skeptically. I agree, I exclaimed, ignoring her. Yeah, Lena just gave a barely noticeable nod. So, it's all settled. I slammed my fist on the table and surged to my feet. Hold on, it's not like we all agreed on that. You just... Why would we hesitate? I seriously wouldn't want a second encounter with a thing like that. Where will we go? Do you even realize how long it will take to reach the city on foot? Damn it, do you really think that nobody ever rides that road? A car, a bus, whatever? We'll get something eventually. I wouldn't be so sure. So you think it's better to stay here? Well, I didn't say that. It's scary here, especially at night. Lena, oh. Scary here, especially at night. Lena whispered quietly. That still doesn't mean that we can't go anywhere, said Masha out loud. I gave her a narrow look. Now, something has surely changed in her. Perhaps I should have a gentle talk with her about it. Or perhaps I shouldn't. Maybe she's also. Alright, let's take a vote. I said in quite a confident tone, yet I still had my doubts. What if Masha's right? Perhaps we shouldn't be running around aimlessly. On the one hand, I have no idea what awaits us beyond the gates of this camp. On the other hand, it's really all hell breaking loose. Okay, she shrugged. I won't stand for another minute here. Leaving? Staying. Let's try it. Maybe we will indeed get lucky and catch a ride. Leaving. Everyone turns their eyes towards Lena. Well, it's already 3-on-2 if she even votes to stay, so fuck it, we're leaving. I don't want to stay here. It seems like my decision wasn't going to affect the outcome anyway. So, let's get going. Well, I sprang to my feet. Everyone else remained seated with their heads down. Since we decided, Masha got up slowly and looked at me. What about our stuff? Asked Elisa quite awkwardly. Do you really think that we should care now? Finally, someone who has logical thinking here. Mumbled Roder gloomily. Well, you're probably right. Well, in my case, my stuff has already vanished somewhere. In a few minutes, we were standing at the bus stop. The city's that way. How do you know? And is it just me? It's just the way this is. It looks like she's like grabbing both of their butts. In a way. Masha gestured at the horizon. It was there the day before yesterday. I grinned. Yeah, that way, Rhoda confirmed. We paused in silence for a few moments, and then slowly headed off towards our destination. The summer sun was unbearably scorching, making the asphalt melt. Everything a few hundred feet away, the roads, the trees, the grass, the sky, was melting into a bright heat haze that looked more like a burning fog. I was streaming with sweat, my room's pretty hot, and was starting to think that I was getting sunstroke. Sure, it would have been a great idea to bring more water with us, but back when we were setting, only thing we could think of was whatever. The only thing we could think of was getting our asses as far as possible from that damned camp. Eventually, I felt like I was about to lose consciousness. Only the wretched trills of the grasshopper kept me in touch with reality. Of course, this hellish noon is indeed their favorite part of the day. They couldn't care less about the scorching heat, zero humidity, or the lack of any kind of air movement. On the contrary, they felt great. It was a perfect backdrop for the final act of their last apocalyptic symphony. We probably should have stayed in the camp after all. Or at least we should have started this hike later, closer to the evening. Although wandering the unknown country road at night is hardly a good idea either. The sound of a stifled cry came from behind me. 100 feet away, Elisa was barely holding up Lena, keeping her from collapsing to the ground. Oh, I thought there was like one of those zombies. I dashed up to them. What's the matter? She's fainted. I helped to carry Lena to the roadside. There is at least some shade from the small grove. And that concludes our hike, said Masha in a gloomy mood, sinking down to the grass. I warned you. Fine, but what does it change now? We'd been traveling for at least a couple hours, so thinking of heading back to the camp is pointless. Well, at least until the evening, when the heat will decrease a bit. And we still haven't seen a single car. I turned around to look at Roder. He pulled off his shirt and began to wring the sweat out of it. Elisa was trying to revive Lena. If that's sunstroke... Stop! She shouted at me. If that's indeed sunstroke, we've gotten ourselves in deep trouble. She won't make it anywhere. I walked towards the road, shielded my eyes from the sun with my hand, and stared into the distance. Nothing but the same asphalt treading beyond the horizon, with no signs of civilization. Or any signs of human presence at all. It was like we were the only people left, not only in the camp, but in the whole world. Though if you think about what has happened before, it's really not a big surprise. We went back to the others and sat down on the log. I guess we have to scout ahead. I looked at Router. To check what's ahead. Maybe we could find something. And you just stay here for a while. But She can't go anywhere right now, anyway. Lena was lying with her eyes closed and gasping for air. Okay, go ahead, said Masha calmly. Just occurred to me that I'd planned to have a talk with her. But it's definitely not the time for that now. Let's go? Rhoda shrugged his shoulders and followed me. We kept walking for about 15 minutes. The girls were left far behind. 15 minutes isn't that far. You'd be able to see them. What do you think? Any chance of us meeting with somebody? He asked quietly. I don't know, I replied in an annoyed tone. I really wanted to refrain from talking now. The endless field stretched to the horizon, sparsely sprinkled with patches of trees and hills. The landscape looked so typical and tranquil that, in fact, it caused anxiety. If we'd found ourselves on the plains of hell, at least we would expect to be attacked from just anywhere, so we could brace ourselves and prepare for the worst. Now we felt just like the droplets of paint on the canvas of a nameless painter who paints the summer in central Russia. Or wherever we are now. All this only made our fear stronger. Look, yelled Router. I narrowed my eyes and saw that the road took a turn. So, what's so special? There must be something there. What makes you think that? Well, since there's a turn. We've been walking straight forward all the time, and now... Okay, let's go and take a look. Oh, no. In a few minutes, we finally came to the gates of the Sovionic pioneer camp. I collapsed down on the curb and buried my face in my hands. I didn't feel scared. In fact, I didn't feel any emotions at all. Just the fatigue and the void inside of me. But how? Mumbled Router. No idea. Besides, what's the difference anyway? It's not like this is any stranger than anything else that's happened to me in the last few days. I looked up at him, feeling exhausted. Router's lips were trembling. An expression of deathly horror was plastered on his face. Let's go back and fetch the girls. I didn't wait for him and just shuffled off back to where we left them. Found anything? Asked Masha, chewing on some strawberries of uncertain origin. We did. A camp. What camp? She looked surprised. Our camp. What? Masha looked so silly now, I couldn't help flashing an ironic smile. But you were going forward, not backward. Forward, and Sovyanik is there. Hey, stop joking, she exclaimed. I'm dead serious. But, said Elisa quietly. She was sitting down on the grass and cradling the head of Lena, who was still sleeping. Yeah, just like that, I said tiredly and dropped down to the ground. Okay, means we're heading there. I looked at Masha keenly and suddenly realized that I can't wait anymore. Hey, what's happening with you? What do you mean? Her look screamed that now is not the time for breezy chatter. You were scared to death yesterday, yet today you have this happens to me all the time attitude. But what's the point in panicking? She cracked a barely visible smile. If I didn't know you... I went quiet, bit my lip, and turned away. But really, do I know her that well? You dated her. I mean, sure, we spent so many years together, but if you get down to it, I always thought more about myself. Or rather, I always believed that she was completely satisfied. And she was always the same to me. The same at just about everything. About anything. Even when we were breaking up, as if she wasn't a real person, just my favorite article of clothing. Thinking about it, did you wear her like clothing? Well, I mean... I have no idea what's going on in her soul. I just never cared about it. Thus, her behaving like this under the circumstances doesn't seem more bizarre than anything else that's happened to us. And if you think about that talk at the beach 2 evenings ago... Talk. Yes, you had a talk. She probably really is stronger than me. Hey, are you listening to me at all? Oh, sorry, got carried away. So much has happened. She looked at me sternly. Let's get going to the camp, wherever you were, if that's the same old camp. Alright. In fact, it's not like we had any other choice. A few more hours in this scorching heat would only yield more casualties. But we have to carry her along. Yes, just a sec. Let me figure it out. Found 2 fairly long and sturdy sticks in the nearby grove. Why do you need sticks? Coming back, I ordered Router to take his shirt off. He tried to object, but soon enough realized that there was no use in arguing. I took off my shirt as well, and we made sort of a stretcher, attaching the fabric to the poles. Will it hold? Masha gave our device a questioning look, but ultimately gave it a few strong pulls, ensuring its strength, and smiled. It will, at least until we reach the camp. It was hard to go in this heat, but it was even harder to carry the injured, that is, Lena. Injured, that is, Lena? Why not just injure Lena? Several times I almost fainted and barely caught myself halfway to the ground. Roder felt even worse, but with Masha and Elisa were swapping places with him every now and then. Still, my pride won't allow me to ask them to carry Lena even for a minute. Usually stretchers are like things like that are like 4 people, one on each side of the log. Sure, it's silly to act like this under these circumstances, but I couldn't help myself. This is yet another flaw in my personality, along with coldness, inattentiveness to others, even my loved ones, and other less than noble traits. Finally, we somehow made it to the camp gates, and I collapsed to the grass in the shadow of the unknown pioneer statue, completely worn out. It actually is our camp. Masha lingered on the words. And indeed, it looks the same. We have to carry her to a cabin, Elisa mentioned quietly. Yeah, I got up with considerable effort and prepared for the last run. The obvious choice was Olga's cabin, most likely because we managed to come through the last night here without major problems. At least we are still alive. Me and Router were sprawled exhausted on one bed, and the girls were undressing Lena. What? And the girls were undressing Lena on the other. I suppose less clothes, less heat. Bah. Don't look, said Masha sternly. It's not like there's anything worth looking at. I snorted and turned away, giving Router a harsh poke in the ribs, making him follow my lead. We're gonna get some water, and probably rummage through the canteen too. It's dangerous to go alone. Take this! Wanna come along? She grinned. No thanks. At least take that pipe with you, I said uncertainly. Yes, take this. Aw. Do you really think it will help? I sighed heavily and closed my eyes. Well, be careful then. The door closed after a second. You asleep? Rhoda's whisper reached me. As if one could sleep here. All at once I heard Lena moan from the other bed. Sat up on my elbows and looked at her. Lena was tossing and turning under the blanket. You take the clothes off so there's less heat, right? So she can cool down faster. Just to put her underneath a blanket, which will heat her up more. Logic. Suddenly, she opened her eyes and abruptly turned to face me. A devil's grin was frozen on her face. The same one I saw yesterday evening. Hot enough for you, eh? She burst into laughter. I felt a shiver run down my spine. My ability to speak vanished. You... What? I asked Router through his sleep. I turned to him sharply. Look! I waved my hands, pointing at Lena's bed. What? He got up and looked where I was pointing first, then back at me. I turned and just saw Lena sleeping peacefully. Didn't you hear it? What? Her. Lena was awake and said, Oh, seems that you've got sunstroke too. He turned towards the wall, but I'm absolutely sure that I heard and saw it. Well, it could be true that the heat got to me at last. But it all seems to be exactly like that time. What time? And it wasn't Lena. At the very least, it's not the Lena I knew, as if she was possessed by the devil. I lay down and pulled a blanket over my head. I really wanted to sleep, but the realization that I might never wake up again if I fall asleep now was keeping me up and running. I'm not sure how long I spent lying like that, trembling at every rustle, but eventually the door burst open and steps resounded in the room. Oh good, it's them. I barely peered out from under the blanket and caught a glimpse of Elisa and Masha entering with a bucket of water and some bags. I see you went a bit... What? I see you went a bit cuckoo here. Yeah, sorta. I replied with a trembling voice, trying to flash a smile. Everything's okay? Seems like it. I glanced at Lena yet again, but she was still sleeping quietly. Maybe it was indeed just my imagination. Sure, given a condition of such extreme emotional stress and physical fatigue, I might be seeing things. What does that sound? There we go. I got up with considerable effort, took a cup from the table, and scooped up some water. Scooping up water doesn't go... It's not the same sound. So, what are we doing next? We'll have to stay here for now. But Olga's called the police, muttered Elisa. Yeah, but everyone disappeared after that. In any case, until Lena comes to her senses. Although if I ever happen to see her like that again, I would frankly rather that she doesn't wake up. Elisa lay down on Lena's bed, and Masha sat down next to me. Get some sleep. She gently stroked the top of my head. There to there. Can you really sleep with all this happening? We'll keep guard. You look really tired. I guess she was right. Okay, but just a nap. Wake me up before evening. She didn't say a word, just smiled instead. Promise. I promise, replied Masha quietly. Everyone's fucking replying quietly or whispering. Jesus Christ. I'm just gonna whisper everything. I closed my eyes and instantly tumbled into a dream. Here they come again, the grasshoppers. Okay, I'll stop. This time it's their king, a huge swamp green monstrosity with really long curved legs, wings that would match the wingspan of a large airliner. Jesus Christ, that's huge. And enormous pitch black eyes. Who's hanging over me, grinning and spluttering something really loud. I still didn't understand anything of their language, but judging by the tone, it wasn't anything nice that you would hear on the morning news. I wanted to get away, but he clutched me tightly with his wretched claw. I could hear my bones cracking, feel my ribs breaking. Ribs are a bone! Piercing my internal organs with their sharp splinters. I felt hundreds of hammers smashing inside my skull. Ugh. My vision faded, and in the next moment, fountains of blood and flesh were spraying all over the place. Quite a lovely dream there, Semyon. I jumped up in a cold sweat. My own scream still reverberated in the room. It took me several seconds to clear the dimness from my eyes. I looked around frantically and realized that it was evening already, and it was completely dark outside. Good grief, we didn't even turn off the light yesterday. Did you... That's what you're more concerned about? Masha was lying asleep next to me, while Router was curled up on the floor. Lena was lying on the other bed, tightly wrapped in the blanket. Yet Elisa was nowhere to be seen. Hey. I woke Masha up with a few rough prods. What? Whoa. She seems... pink. More pink than normal. She slowly came to her senses. I don't know what's up with that. Didn't I ask you? Sorry, I fell asleep. She had such a guilty expression on her face that I felt sick. I shouldn't have relied on her. At least I could have set up an alarm. I woke Router up. Where's Elisa? I don't know, said Masha worriedly. Well, who does know? We were all asleep. Well, she was sleeping here, and then... Her eyes darted around guiltily. And then you fell asleep. She hung her head and let out a heavy sigh. Oh, perfect. Just perfect. I pounded my fist on the table, making Masha jump. Okay, you said... Wow, the amount of motions Masha has got to be going through right now. Jesus Christ. Okay, you sit here, and we'll go and find her. Alone? Wait, I said we'll go and find her, right? And we'll go and find her. That's not alone. Her face suddenly took on an expression of fright. Alone? Wasn't it you who told me that it's not worth panicking? Yeah, but it's not. Oh, fine. I'll go alone. Or she's saying go alone. But... Or do you really want to sit here with only Lena? Masha kept silent. It's dangerous to go alone. Here, take this! That's twice now in the same video. Jesus Christ. Are they intentionally making the Zelda references? Is he going to give me a basic starter sword? I noticed the writer seemed to have fully awakened. Was it not dangerous for her to sit here all alone? I felt that there was no point in arguing, so I got up, grabbed my trusty pipe, and headed for the door. 2 Zelda references in one video. Jesus Christ, game. You're doing this on purpose. I mean, I know they're probably not meant to be Zelda references, but I can't help. It's like the most classic, iconic line of Zelda. 1. In any case, given that people have been disappearing into thin air, one can't feel safe anywhere, or in any company. Of course, it still could turn out that Elisa just went somewhere. To the toilet, for example. Though given how frightened she looked, I guess she would have woken up Masha, or just have held it till morning. Damn, anything but going all alone through the camp. I braced myself, pulled the handle, and went outside. And we'll have to leave this for the next episode. I'm actually stopping recording for the date now. Hopefully, just hopefully, to say it doesn't corrupt. And besides, if it does, I mean, it's not that hard to get back here. It'd be like 15 minutes of just fast forwarding through everything. But yeah, thank you. By the way, this is the broken one, so I'm just saving up here now. Saving over number 1. Woo! And it still says epilogue. This is epilogue from when we started Monday's episode. This is epilogue still from today. So, I don't know what this number is. Is this the time? Yeah, it's 6:29 a.m. right now. So, there you go. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.